So, this is the Hobbit. I cannot guarantee his safety. Understood.
You will see more of Middle-earth than you've ever seen before.
To actually go back inside Middle-earth, it will be a real event movie.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Mr. Richard Armitage. All right, now Richard, you brought yourself to Thorin Oakenshield, and we did have a fan question that asked, what in fact does playing Thorin Oakenshield leave with you as a person and an actor?
I think it's kind of an interesting question because I haven't left Thorin Oakenshield yet. So he's kind of, all of him is still with me. But I think the one thing that I discovered about myself whilst creating the role was the realization about leadership by example. So because I'm not really a bold leader as a person, and I found in him a nobility which is about leading by example, not necessarily by dictation. So really that's the biggest thing that I learned for myself.
All right, so if you're in trouble, pick up a piece of wood and kill somebody.
Yeah.
Now, one of the most interesting things about this particular character is the heavy makeup that you work with. Were you surprised and shocked by how different you look on screen? And was the acting process similar to, say, mask work when you're trying to convey emotion through that makeup and the giant beards?
Yeah, I mean, when I met Peter, actually before meeting Peter, you get a character breakdown, and it does say, will be required to wear some prosthetics. So I knew there would be something, whether it was some ears or something, I thought maybe, but it was extensive, and the initial manifestation of Thorin was much greater than what you see there. They worked with my own face to try and make it look like it wasn't too dramatic, which was a slow process, and it changed throughout the course of filming. I did do mask work at drama school, so it was useful to see my face and try and make it move in the mirror. And I spent a lot of time doing that. I also worked with Tammy Lane, who was my prosthetics artist, to try and make sure that the flashing on the eyes wasn't too heavy so that I could move my eyebrows. The eyes move in such a sensitive way. I didn't want that to be inhibited in any way because I felt that the key to seeing into Thorin's heart was through his eyes. And I was nervous about having all of that on my face. But I think it worked out okay. And when I took the prosthetic off, my face was much more animated than I normally am as a person, but that was just because of the muscles being exercised a little bit more.
Now, what is it that you think is left behind for audiences today, as opposed to, say, the audiences of Tolkien's time who would have seen it as a direct metaphor for World War I?
Yeah, I mean, it was something I discovered as I was researching The Hobbit, because I read Tolkien's biography, and I think he talks a lot about his experiences in World War I. The loss of his fellowship, I think, really informed what he was writing about. And the rise of evil, in Europe was something very much in his head when he wrote the book. I think audiences of the time would have understood that more closely, but at the same time, we're living in a time where, our children, our friends are going to other parts of the world to fight battles. And particularly with the dwarves, the idea of an exiled people returning home, trying to find their homeland that's a story which pervades, across time. So all of these things resonate for you. They give you ideas, but at the same time, we're making a fantasy movie, essentially aimed at young adults. So you just bear it in mind and try not to get too heavy and political about it.
Well, I think that's the most interesting thing, is ultimately these films are entertainment. It's fun. And I want to ask you about the fun of it, because obviously 266 days of hard work, of emoting under heavy makeup, heavy battle gear, and of course throwing Orcrist around. I mean, how heavy is Orcrist to wave above your head? Is it just a piece of balsa wood, or is it a lovely wetter work?
I've got to say, most of the fun was had offset. The first day I had all the costume on and all the makeup, and it was so hot and heavy, as you've probably heard from many of the other whinging actors on this movie. But I made a conscious decision that I didn't want it to inhibit what I was doing, and I knew that if I really concentrated on the character, that I could, try and have some fun with Thorin. He's not a big bag of laughs, I've got to be honest. It was a challenge looking for a single moment to make him smile. For me, I have fun when I'm being tested and when I'm being pushed. And, this was an endurance test from beginning to end. And if it hadn't been for my fellow dwarves, British, Kiwi, and that coming together of two cultures, I really would have had a lot less fun. But we had such a great cast, and I can't wait to see them again. I started training again at the end of January so that I could swing that heavy sword around that you're talking about. But I was gifted a replica of the sword, so I've had practice. I was very close to taking it to the gym with me and swinging it around.
Yeah. Now, you talk about having fun on set, and I want to perhaps delve into some of the stories that you may not have regurgitated previously. Perhaps ones where the director may have been put in a very embarrassing situation.
Our director put himself in a very embarrassing situation. You might want to not film this because I'll get into trouble. Okay, so at the end of the first film when you see Thorin on the tree and he's about to attack Azog, I didn't really know what Pete was shooting there. And I was trying to run down the tree trunk wearing these massive dwarf boots. And I obviously wasn't coming down quick enough. So Pete got up on the tree and said, no, this is how you do it. He came running down so fast, by the time he got to the bottom, his pants had fallen down around his ankles in front of the entire crew, and they had been filming it. So somewhere there's a video of Pete with his pants around his ankles.
Sir Peter Jackson, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Although he's not the first person to lose their trousers on the set of The Hobbit, I want to take you to a fan question about Dwarfs Illustrated 2012.
This was actually my idea. Don't let Graham McTavish tell you anything different. This was my idea. It was Pete's 50th birthday, and we decided that we would create a naked dwarf calendar. But of course, you know what a naked dwarf looks like. We're loaded with padding. So that was the joke. And basically, every dwarf was a different month in various compromising positions. But there is only one copy which Peter owns. And Graham wanted to make more. And I said, absolutely not. There is only one copy, and there only ever will be.
Obviously, Thorin Oakenshield. You have a strategically placed piece of oak, or?
What happened in the calendar stays in the calendar.
Well, that's all we have time for Mr. December.